everyone. Welcome back to the Scott Stokely podcast. And I have another amazing guest with me. I have Trey Olds, who is a voice actor and a radio host. Now, on the surface, that might not seem so neat. Why is this guy on my show? Well, Trey is also high-functioning autism. And I'm excited to have the conversation because, as everyone, well, most of you know, I've done much work within the autism and the special needs community. And I've tried my best to educate as best I can, but I can only repeat what other people have told me. I can't speak from experience. I've never walked in those shoes that Trey wears every day. And so I'm excited to talk to him and hear about his journey. Trey, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
All right. So right off the bat, we had a couple delays today. I was at a place without a signal. I was at we just didn't get to our hotel, and I kept putting you off and changing plans several times. Let me start by saying, for my listeners, there's no such thing as people with autism this. There's no rule that applies to everybody, but there are things that are common, and one of them is a breaking of a routine and interrupting consistency. Was that difficult today when I kept postponing for you?
Yeah, a little bit. I'm used to a routine. I'm a time stickler. I have to have everything on a certain time, but it wasn't a problem really. No.
Okay. That was the first thing I thought about. Was I was hoping I wasn't just ruining your night. Okay, so I want to start with you. Let's go back to the early days. When were you first diagnosed as being unique?
Well, I was officially diagnosed as a high-functioning autism when I was 11 years old. I went to, I was born and raised in Louisiana, and I went to Children's Hospital in Houston, Texas, where they diagnosed me as high-functioning autistic, and set a plan for that, and coping skills, and put me on the right medication to help me. And I learned a lot about it. I didn't know I was autistic. I had a feeling I was autistic or something was different, but until I was 11 and went to Children's Hospital in Texas, I wasn't officially diagnosed until then.
Yeah, and I actually was struggling for the word when I said unique. I mean, everyone's unique, but the reason I was trying to reach for that a definition was the people that I've worked with, especially high autism, felt that there was something different, but there wasn't a label on it. So before you were diagnosed, did you struggle, or?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I struggled a little bit. I knew I was different. I knew something wasn't clicking right in my brain. I was just having a hard time focusing on things, and I was very nervous, very anxious. I was just, my mind was scattered. I didn't know what to do.
Well, were the difficulties in learning, or were they social, or both?
A little bit of both. Yeah, I was, ever since I was a little kid, I was always shy. And my parents thought I was normal for a little kid, shy, but I never quite grew out of that until I was about 11 or 12. I stopped being shy, and I became more outgoing, and approached people and talked to people and so forth. And learning difficulties with learning. I had a, a, a trouble focusing in school, and I wouldn't stay focused on one thing. My mind would just scatter on different things, like I would multitask, and that was a struggle for a while. But then I learned to focus and try to have coping mechanisms, not necessarily multitask, but not try to just have your mind scattered in different places. You need to focus on one thing at a time, what you're doing.
Was it hard making and keeping friends?
Yeah, for a while when I was in elementary school and junior high, middle school, I had a tough time making friends because it's difficult when you are different from others or have a mental health diagnosis. It doesn't click right with others right away, and people I've learned in life, people are just very judgmental, and I don't mean that in a bad way. People are just naturally curious and naturally inquisitive, and so it was an interesting experience, and of course I got through it, and I stay positive, and I always look forward to a challenge, so it's fun.
Did you share your diagnosis with other kids, or was that something you kept to yourself?
Well, I shared it. I let people know because I thought it would help me. Maybe I find other people that had autism like me and made friends, and that happened quickly. I wasn't really bullied for my diagnosis. I found a group of other kids my age in school who had autism or similar disabilities, and that kind of lightened up my viewpoint and my day. I found other people like me. Like, I thought I was the only one, but that wasn't the case.
When you were younger, did they call it autism by then? Because when I was younger, it wasn't autism. I mean, it was, but it was called different things.
Yes, it was called autism, but they had different names for it. It was like behavior disorders. They had different, it was, my diagnosis was PDDNOS. It's behavior dysfunctioning disorder. It's a long name, but it's now with all the research, it's categorized as high functioning autism.
So was the high functioning autism called Asperger's at any point, or was that considered different?
Yes, it was called Asperger's. Not when I was first diagnosed. It was called what I said, that long name. And then as the years went by, I saw other doctors and they start calling it Asperger's syndrome, and which is, I think, the common term now for it. And yeah, they called it that, or high functioning autism. And there's different forms of autism. It's a big spectrum, high functioning, low functioning, and there's some people that are in the middle of the spectrum.
Yeah, in my travels, I found it was interesting is that certain places call it Asperger's, but then other places are rejecting that term and are just saying it's on the autism spectrum. But then it seems to be depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, that's my experience. It depends on who you talk to. Yeah.
When you told people you had autism, there's stereotypes that come with it, right?
yeah, there is a lot of stereotypes, and a lot of people these days refer it to. There's a movie called Rain Man, and the guy in that movie had autism, and they referred, people who didn't really know about it would refer to that movie, and he kind of had a struggle with autism, the character in the movie Rain Man, and so people will refer to that. Uh, so it was interesting, and I was always I was shy at first, but then I became very sociable, and I would always speak out against bullies or people that didn't really understand autism. I would try to educate them or give them tips or advice how to approach people with autism, and tell them that it is a real diagnosis, because some people don't believe that autism is a real a diagnosis.
As far as the stereotypes, I think my favorite expression, and I'm thinking you probably have heard this also, but my favorite expression I heard was, if you know one person with autism, you know one person with autism, because the stereotypes don't apply. So I've always heard that when someone says, I mentioned I work in the autism community, someone will always say something like, "Oh, that's great, they're so good at math." And my answer is, just like the real world, some are terrible at it. It's just like people, right?
Definitely. I can attest that I'm not good with math. I was more with English and literature. I studied that in junior high and high school, and I was more of a theater kid and drama kid, and literature and poetry and all that. And I did sports for a while in high school. Not actually doing them. I was the football manager for football, and I did help out with basketball and golf and tennis, all that, and that's fun. You met a lot of different people with different interests, but everyone is not the same, and that's what makes the world interesting.
You could not say that any better than you just did. Did you go to college after high school?
No, I didn't go to college. I thought about it a few times, but I got busy with my radio show and theater acting, and that's just taken up most of my time. So I really don't have time to go to college, and I may go in the future, or I may not. It's always something that can be pursued.
Have you found as you've gotten older that people are more understanding or less ignorant, or are people just people?
Well, both ways. I mean, people are people. You said it right. People are people. There's always going to be doubters and people that just won't like you in the world, and it's you have to get used to that. You can't please everybody, and don't try to please everybody, because that will just ruin your viewpoint on life and just get you in a negative mood. And but I've been fortunate to be around people that are very accepting and open-minded, and there are a few people that are doubters and don't understand it, but that's everywhere you go in the world. And like I said, I've been blessed and fortunate to know a lot of the people around me are supportive, and that's what matters to me, the people that are supportive.
Do you find that the theater crowd is going to be more outside the box and creative thinking? I mean, do you think they can relate to you more just because, I mean, if you do theater, you're not a rigid thinking person, right? I mean, do you think that helps?
Yeah, absolutely. I started doing theater when I was in junior high, when I was in about sixth or seventh grade. And there was a lot of other people with autism that did theater as well. And there was a lot of people that didn't have autism that did theater, but they had the same mindset, the same viewpoint, because people with autism, they're very, very creative. They're very outside the box. And
Yeah.
theater people are also like that, you know.
How did you overcome being shy? Because getting past social anxiety for someone without autism and getting up on stage could be almost impossible, but then you're adding a whole nother layer of a challenge to this. What did you do to get past this? I mean, that seems amazing.
Yeah, I was very nervous when I started doing theater. It was something I always wanted to do in the back of my mind. I always found theater interesting and acting very interesting. And I wanted to do it. I didn't want my autism to stop my one of my dreams, you know. And so I pursued it and kept pushing past the challenges. And I remember the first time I got on stage, it was for a play in junior high, and I got on the stage. And before I got on stage, they had the teacher, and he could tell I was very nervous, and he said, "I can tell this is a dream you want to. This is one of your dreams you want to pursue. You have the passion in you. I can tell you have the desire to do acting, and you know, think when you go out on the theater, on the stage, think about the audience. And the audience, he said it in a way like the audience is nervous too. You know, they're around other people, and they don't know what they're going to expect from the theater show. And he said, connect with the audience with that. They're nervous too, but they are here facing their fears, you know, watching the play. So if they're here and doing it, so can you. And it was a very unique way he put it. And so I got on stage and I did my character. And after I did my character, everyone clapped and, you know, cheered. And that's when I got in my mind that I like this, you know, theater is very interesting, and it's very worthwhile. You make people laugh, make people entertained. And that's where the acting bug bit me, I guess you could say.
Now, the question I really want to ask you, but before I ask you, I want to take a second and educate my listeners on something so they'll understand the question. One of the common things in the autism community, especially as it affects social anxiety, is something called scripting. And this is where many people with autism will rehearse in their head the dialogue that will take place in certain scenarios. That way, when they get into a situation, they're prepared on how to answer. It's a way of dealing with anxiety and preparation for it. And it's called scripting because it's like reading scripts in your head. First off, I want to know, is that something that you do? But then second, is there any similarities between scripting, if you do it, and what you do on stage? Sorry, long question. But is scripting something that you do to deal with social anxiety?
Absolutely. I've done that since I was diagnosed with autism. I play every scenario you can think of, and I replay it over and over in my head. And I get comfortable with one that is appropriate for each situation, and that helps me. It coaches my brain, and then that also helps with the theater part of acting, because when you read a script in acting, you have to memorize it. You can't bring the script on the stage with you. You have to memorize it, and I memorize it with certain keywords that I can associate with it in my mind, and I replay it over and over and over until I'm confident enough that I have it down pat. And it's a very interesting way of thinking and a way of doing things. And most people probably think it's unusual, but it helps me a lot. It does.
Well, I don't think it's unusual for actors. I mean, that's what actors do. It seems interesting that it's something you've done your whole life translates so naturally. So now the other question then is, have you ever done improv?
Yes, I did. I've done a little bit of improv. I'm still learning that. And I tell people that if you want to get into acting, there's always, and this can be said in life in general, there's always room to learn. You never stop learning. Even if you're 90 years old, you're always going to learn something new, and you never stop learning. And but I've done improv, and I've had situations in theater, and I do voiceovers as well, narration and stuff. And they give you, the casting director or the director gives you something. It's just one word of something, and you improvise on it. Like there was one I had to improvise. He gave me it was a narration, and it was a Western, like cowboys, and he gave me a word for it. And I just went off on this monologue about Westerns and cowboys. And the director said, that's great, he said, cut, we've ran out of tape, stop. I was getting into it. And it was fun. And I like improv. It's very interesting. It's method acting. It's very enjoyable once you know how to do it.
So scripting works well when everything goes well. Have you been in a situation where things didn't go well? For example, if another actor or actress screwed up a line, or something broke or fell, or someone didn't hit their cue. Have you been in a situation where you had to not use your scripting in front of an audience? Because that would terrify me.
Yeah, that's happened to me one or two times, not many. Most of my acting jobs have been successful and no hiccups in it, but there's come a few times where the casting director, he doesn't give you a lot of direction for this character, and you kind of have to use your imagination a little bit, and work with the director and the other actors. And that happens if another actor messes up their line, or it's happened to me where I've messed up my line and you have to go back and redo it. And when I first started doing acting and voice acting, if I messed up, I was very self-conscious. But as I got older and did it more and more, and I learned you're only human, actors are human, and they make mistakes as well,
Do you do mostly stage, or do you do film and television and everything?
I do a little bit of everything. My background mostly is theater and radio voiceovers and narrations, and but I've done two or three independent films with small, independent films with universities and theater departments and independent directors, filmmakers, and but I've mostly done my radio show, and I've done a few other guest spots on radio shows, and I was a guest host for a radio show. It was online. It was based in Indiana, and I was the guest host for that for 10 or 11 episodes, and that was fun. It was a variety show, comedy, music, interviewing, and that was fun. And I enjoyed doing that. And I enjoy doing all of it: radio interviewing, disc jockey, theater acting, film and television. It's all fun.
And I'm about to get to the radio show, but one more area of theater. Do you like musicals? And do you ever perform in musicals?
I've done one or two musicals in high school. We did The Phantom of the Opera and Les Miserables, Les Mis, and that was fun. I enjoyed doing Phantom of the Opera, and I had a small role in that. I didn't do any singing in that, but in Les Mis, I did a little bit of singing. And say again?
Oh, what character were you in Les Mis?
I was the bishop, the priest.
Yeah. What's your favorite musical?
I like The Phantom of the Opera. That's my favorite. And I was very proud to be in a production in high school for The Phantom of the Opera. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Phantom years ago in Denver, and I was younger and I didn't appreciate it. Now I'm a musical junkie now. I mean, I'm all about my Broadway musicals, but when I was younger, I think it went over my head. You have a radio show.
Yeah.
Before your radio show, how did you get started in radio?
Well, before I did radio, I was still doing theater in junior high, and I was just going into high school. And I met somebody who was a radio show host in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And he said, why are you not doing voiceovers? You have a unique voice, Trey. You need to do voiceovers, and you can still do theater, but put your foot in voiceovers and narrations, and you'll gain more experience. And it will also help you in theater. You'll learn aspects in voiceovers that can help you in theater, and vice versa. You'll learn things in the theater that can help you in voiceovers. And so I said, okay, how do I get started in that? He said, make a demo tape of you reading something, reading a book, or doing different types of topics. And if you can do character voices, do that. And so I made a demo tape, and it was mostly narrations. I don't really do character voices. I've done a few character voice roles. I've done a animated short. It was a Western. It was a cowboy, and that was fun. And but mostly narrations. And recently I've done the old radio dramas are coming back, something along those lines from back in the day, the old radio dramas or mysteries. And I have a friend that does a radio station, and that's his whole focus is radio dramas and mysteries. And I've done one or two of them. And but I got started in voiceovers and radio when I was 13 or 14, and for the first 2 years of I was a disc jockey. I started my own radio show or podcast, and I played music. I did country, rock and roll, jazz, any kind of music. And then in 2015, I wasn't necessarily getting tired of doing music, but I wanted to do something different because I saw other people do different things, and I was thinking of what's the different thing I could do, and I said, well, interviewing, that might be fun. I've seen television shows interviewing actors and musicians and writers, and maybe I should give that a try, and it will give me some experience if I interview actors who's been in the industry a long time than me, and I can add that to my experience in theater and voiceovers. So I did that, and my first guest for interviewing was the guy who got me started in voiceovers, the disc jockey in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And after that, I approached more actors, or I went through their talent agents or managers, and I've interviewed some big names. I've interviewed Ed Asner, Marion Royce, Joan Van Ark, and a few others, some singers, George Galfo of the Mystics, Jimmy Chappell, Ayla Brown, and then some writers. And I've done a few directors, I've done a few sports stars, I've done a few musicians and producers, and I cover it all from entertainment, sports, and journalism and broadcasting. And it's been a fun venture for me. I enjoy it.
Is this on the radio show, or you said podcast?
Well, it's a podcast, but it's been on some radio stations. I have a few friends that own radio stations, and they put my show on it. And my show is heard. It's the internet, so it's everywhere. It's on YouTube, Facebook, Spotify, Apple iTunes. I've had people from around the world all over reach out to me, from Australia, Canada, England, and all over the US. And I've had positive feedback. I love your show, and could you, do you take requests? Like, can I request an actor if you can get a hold to interview? And I said, sure, that can be interesting. And when I did the disc jockey work, they would send in requests for songs, and that was interesting and fun.
You're in Mississippi, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Have you heard of the sport of disc golf?
I've heard of it. I'm not really knowledgeable on it, but I've heard of it.
I wasn't sure where you were, because you mentioned the city and I couldn't recall. I don't know if you know of my background, but the reason why I started doing the podcast is I have a bunch of world and national titles and world records in disc golf. And if you ever wanted a disc golfer on your show, I would love to be a guest.
Definitely. I would be happy to interview you. I think it'd be interesting. And like I said, I've done a few sports stars, and I did a few football players and a few baseball players. And yeah, I'm always open to doing sports stars. I'm not really a sports guy. I don't really have I'm not very knowledgeable about it, and but that's hence I do the interviews with the sports stars. I gain
For
knowledge from them.
for sure. In fact, the shirt I'm wearing right now is a company called Good Sports, run by John Green in Richmond, Virginia. And he is building a disc golf business that is going to be employing people with autism. So this is part of my connection. I have a connection to the autism community because I like teaching not just autism, I say special needs to include everybody, but autism is the most common member of the group that I teach, autism. And so that's been my connection to the community is through disc golf and teaching those classes. All right, so how old are you?
I'm 20 years old.
So you said I could ask you anything. What about dating?
No, I haven't dated. I haven't been very lucky with that. But no, I prefer just being by myself. You know, I am much of a introvert. I like to stay inside and read or write or draw, and I very much keep to myself. And a lot of people that meet me, they think I'm very much a sociable person, and I am, but I really don't go anywhere. I don't go to parties or anything. And but if I see people, I engage conversations with them, and it's interesting. I make a lot of friends, and that's you can't have too many of those. You can have a lot of friends. You know, it's never bad to have too many of them. You know.
Well, the reason I was asking is because you do. I mean, it seems like an interesting contradiction. You're an introvert and you prefer spending time alone, but your passion is being out in front of people all over the world. Like you understand why that seems unusual, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of actors are like that. A lot of entertainers are like that. They very much prefer to keep to themselves, or they're very shy. But once it gets to their passion to doing theater or performing, they're out there in front of an audience, enjoying every minute of it.
Are you more comfortable in front of big groups than you are in front of one person?
Yeah, I prefer if it's one-on-one, I'm more comfortable with one-on-one. But if it's a group, I've done a few not motivational speaking, but I have spoken at a few conventions or little parties or whatever for it was a theater party, and it was a small crowd, probably about 50 people or so, and it was interesting. I was nervous to go up there and talk to people about my career and my life, and but once I started talking and got in rhythm, it came naturally, you know, because I come from the theater background, and you know, I applied that mindset to that, you know.
I think it's interesting. You talk about speaking in front of groups. I've spoken about autism to many small groups, and I do a lot of things on social media and the internet about it. And a couple of years ago, I was approached by a large organization in Michigan to come up and speak about autism. And I had to explain to them, I am not qualified for this. I have a very small window from a little bit of experience, which means I know more than some people, but a lot of people know more than me. And I said I was flattered. I said, but you're asking the wrong person. I'm not qualified to speak to an auditorium full of people on this topic. And is that something you've thought about doing though? Because being able to
Yeah, I've
something that's, you have that ability, like there's a window to that. I mean, you know, Temple Grandin.
mhm,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, of course. And I have an email from her. She sent me an email once, which I've saved. It might have been from her assistant, but it's signed Temple Grandin, so I saved it. I pretend it's her. But the thing that she's do is it's a window. It's a window into the mind that is different than most of the people in the audience. And your ability to speak in front of a group of people comfortably makes you unique. I think this is something you would be very good at.
Yeah, I've thought about motivational speaking, and I have a friend that is a motivational speaker in California, and he said, "Trey, you need to, yeah, if you want a bigger audience or expand your business and career, I would consider motivational speaking, and I can help you set that up. It would be a big auditorium, and I can gather people for you. Could be hundreds or thousands of people." And when he said thousands, I'm like, I don't know about that. I've talked to a small number of people in groups. I don't know if I could do that. It would be interesting. I would never say never, and I've had friends tell me, you should write a memoir, a book about your career and life with autism. It would sell very well. And I've thought about writing a book, and it's crossed my mind a few times because I write too. I've wrote a few screenplays for independent productions, and one or two screenplays for theater. And so, yeah, I have that, knack for writing. And uh, so it's crossed my mind about speaking, motivational speaking, or writing a book, getting my story around.
Can I tell you why I think you would be good at it?
Sure, sure.
The thing that I think is so impressive to me, and this again, I don't want to generalize, but in my experience working in the community, one of the challenges in the communication that I face when talking to people with autism, even high functioning autism, is that they can speak about autism, but then there's a little disconnect from the way the world works. And the rest of the neurotypicals, whatever word you want to use, we understand how the world works, but we don't understand how autism works. And just listening to you talk for the past half an hour, you understand autism from your experience, but you keep saying things over and over again that shows a connection to how the rest of the world is also existing with your autism in it. Does that make sense? Like, I think you understand both sides, and I don't think that's very common. And I think that gives you the ability to, I wouldn't even say motivational speaker, I would say educational speaker. I think you can educate people because you understand both worlds. And I think that's very rare. That's just my opinion, but I think there's a future in it for you if it's something that you enjoy.
Yeah, I've thought about it. Speaking, it'd be something interesting to add to my resume, and because I'm already an actor, a writer, radio show host, and it'd be interesting to put educational speaker or motivational speaker.
Every public speaker has to be an actor also, because if you're just giving information without performing, it's boring. There's acting and performance involved in all speaking. Yeah, I think we just figured out your next career move. I'll come. I'll tell my audience about it. Now, you're in Mississippi. Does that limit your ability? I mean, obviously not with your podcast. Podcast doesn't matter where you are, but is this something where you're going to have to move if you want to pursue your career, or is this something you think you can always do from your home base?
Yeah, I'm in a small town in Mississippi, but it's very close to Gulfport, Mississippi, and they have many colleges in Gulfport. They have Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College, Pearl River Community College, the University of Southern Mississippi, and then the town I live in, it's right on the Mississippi-Alabama line. So I'm almost into Alabama as well. And they have the University of Mobile and the University of South Alabama and Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama. And I just started working with Spring Hill College with their theater department. The theater head of the department at that college, they contacted me last week, and because I reached out to them and told them I do a radio show and I have a theater background, and I would like to help in any way I can, if it's in performing in productions or just to give advice to other theater students. I'd be glad to do that. And they said they'd be honored to work with me, and I'm doing that with Spring Hill College, and I'm also working with Pearl River Community College, and I've done a few productions with Mississippi Gulf Coast Community College. I've just auditioned for them, but I haven't done really any solid productions, but I've done a lot of auditions with them, and that was fun.
When you were younger, you said the challenges were organizing your thoughts, being all over the place, which was affected learning. And then there was the social aspects and being shy. What are the challenges that you're facing now? Is it the same challenges, just you're getting better at them, or are there new challenges?
It's the same challenges. They've just decreased in worry. I've learned, because I've dealt with those challenges for so long now, and I've learned coping mechanisms and different skills to cope with them. And I'm still very, like I said, I multitask a lot. I do different things, and that kind of gets the best of me sometimes, because it's hard focusing on one thing at a time. And but I've learned to try my best at trying not to be scattered all over and just focus on one thing at a time. And it's gotten better as I find it's gotten better as I am getting older, and experience is wisdom, and wisdom is power. It's very interesting, and the life is interesting. You learn something new every day and learn how to cope with something new, and you can't give up in life. You have to stay positive. And like I said earlier, I'm always up for a challenge. So
No, it's obvious you're pushing yourself all the time. One of the things I've heard many times, someone will say something like, someday I hope we find a cure for autism. And certainly you would like things to be better for medium or low functioning. That's just so challenging for the individual and their family. But many people with high functioning autism get offended by that. And they will say something along the lines of, what do you mean find a cure? There's nothing wrong with me. I don't need to be cured. Do you feel that way when people say that this is who you are and you embrace it? Or is this something that you wish you didn't have to deal with?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I guess I feel both ways in a way. I mean, I always think life would be very different if I didn't have autism. But I would think, I would always think this as well. If I've accomplished so much into acting and different things in my life with autism, I may not accomplish the same things I've accomplished with autism if I didn't have it. You know, it's a part of me, and I've embraced it. And when I was first diagnosed, I thought it was the end of the world. I didn't know what to do. I thought it was an affliction. You know, I
Right.
thought it would affect life in very negative ways. And but of course, that's not the case. I've grown with my diagnosis and strived my best in life, and have a positive outlook on life. And I've done a few, I helped a few other people with autism. I do a lot of volunteer work. And for a while, I was associated with a group called Heroes for Autism. And it was an online foundation and for autism and special needs. And I knew the founder of that foundation, and I knew the one of the board of directors, and we worked together on a radio project together. And it's interesting, and I always learn something new and something unique every time I speak to someone with autism or someone with special needs. They always have something to share, you know.
Yeah, unique is the best word. One of my attractions to the community is I very much enjoy speaking with people. Doesn't matter if it's autism or not. I enjoy speaking with people who are unique. The people I enjoy speaking with the least, and I hope I don't offend some of my audience when I say this, but the husband and wife, 2.5 kids, white picket fence, living in the suburbs, working 9-to-5 jobs, are often the least interesting people I talk to in my day. I just offended a whole bunch of my, but it's just me personally, I like people with different views, and high functioning autism lends itself to seeing things differently, right? That is a generalization, but it's probably accurate, right? I mean, you see the world differently than the neurotypical.
Absolutely.
Have you met others that see the world like you when other people with autism, or is everyone you meet with autism different? I mean, I know there's no stereotyping, but have you met others that are just like you, or is it always different?
I've met my experience. I've met one or two people that are like me, that share the same viewpoint. But many experiences there, it's different each time you meet someone with autism. It's a different viewpoint on life, and it's a positive viewpoint, you know, but it's a different experience each time. And like I said earlier, that's what makes the world unique. It's everyone is different.
Absolutely. Has your autism, I know you said there's similarities, but do you feel it changes over time? Or is it just the way you are? I mean, does the autism part of you change? Or is it just how you deal with it change?
Well, as I get older, different your surroundings change, and different people come in and out of your life, and you have that aspect to deal with, and but it's your autism itself doesn't really change. It's just how you deal with it usually, and you add new coping skills to it, and learn to deal with it, and stay positive.
Are you living on your own?
No, I still live with my parents because I have a few other health issues. I'm legally blind. I can't drive, so I depend on someone to drive me places, and that's the only thing that's affected with my eyesight. I can read well. I can read a acting script, and see different things with technology. Just my only problem is transportation, and I live in an area now. There's growing a lot of things with transportation wise. There's different programs I'm in with special needs that they provide transportation for you, and I go where I need to go.
So aside from the speaking, what's next? We've already decided you're going to be an educational speaker, but aside from that, where is your acting and radio show going to, or are you just going to follow it wherever it leads?
Well, I'll still do acting and radio. I have a lot of interviews coming up. I have one next week. And this one, I want to promote this one because I think it's very important. It's an interview I've never done before like it. It's his name is Nathan Stephen Montrose, and he's 84 years old, and he's a Holocaust survivor. And that's very important to keep alive in our history. That was a terrible thing that happened in the 40s. And we want to make sure that it's never repeated, and we want to make sure that it stays in history and is learned and taught, and that it did happen, and there are people still alive that went through that, and they each have a story to tell. And I'm looking forward to that interview, and I've talked to him on the phone to set it up. He's a very nice man, very knowledgeable. And besides that interview, I have a few other interviews coming up. I have a few other people that are interviewing me, and one's in California, and then there's one in Missouri. And I have a few voice over projects coming up. One with Pearl River Community College. It's a voiceover project. And but yeah, I stay busy, and I hope to stay busy with radio and acting for a long, long time.
I have one last question. Are you packing up someday and going to Los Angeles or New York?
Okay. Well, I would like to move one day because Mississippi is not the best place for acting and radio. I mean, there's a few places here, but if you want to make it big in the industry, many people tell me you'll have to go to Los Angeles or somewhere in California or New York, and but really, I tell people you don't necessarily have to go to New York or California. There's constantly places building up. I'm from Louisiana, and the New Orleans area is slowly building some film work in New Orleans in that area, and Texas is getting big in voiceover work, and there's a big market in acting in Atlanta, Georgia as well. And
Yep.
So there's different places popping up and growing. And you never know, Mississippi and Alabama may be the next target for that, you know?
Good point. Yeah, I've heard Austin is either blowing up or is about to. Is there anything else you want to share before we let you go?
Well, you can find my radio show on YouTube. It's Trey Olds. Type in Trey Olds on YouTube or Trey Olds Radio, and my channel should pop up. And it will have my interviews. It will have some excerpts of theater productions I've done or some independent films. And you can also find the show on Apple iTunes, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, and many other podcast apps, Podbeam, Spreaker, Anchor FM, and anywhere there's podcasts, I'm sure you can find it.
I will put all of the links up on all of my social media. And also, if I get to be a guest on your show, I'll be able to promote that as well. And that'll put a lot of my audience's eyes on your show as well. Thank you so much for your time. I'm so sorry again for the delays, but this was amazing. I've learned so much, but more important than me learning so much, my listeners know and understand autism better. And I think that's been a great thing.
Absolutely.
I will say it one last time. I don't think you should be a motivational speaker. I think you should be an educational speaker. I think you can bridge a gap that not many people in the world are qualified to do. I think you'll be incredibly good at it. So whatever you do, I'm sure you'll be great at it. But I just think you'd be amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And we will be back next time with more people that aren't boring. Thanks, everyone. Hey, everyone. I'm now on Patreon. Click the link below. Not only keep the free content coming with tutorials, tips, podcasts, etc., but get a bunch of free stuff like live stream Q&As, copy of my book, voting on topics, behind the scenes, bunch of cool stuff. Click the link down below to join.